Seriously? Kate Winslet, there are easier ways to break up with a guy. You know there's room on that door. Next. Oh no, Tom Hanks lost a volleyball. I'm so upset. Why don't you go cry about it to Jenny Forrest? Next. That's the thing I love about time travel. My kids grow up, but I stay the same age. Alright. Those are sad movie scenes? Really? Those are nothing. Not compared to what the MCU has put me through over the years. Their movies feature some of the most heart-wrenching scenes in any comic book movie. Welcome back to The Binger, and here we have Marvel's top 10 most heartbreaking scenes ranked from the Sniffles to Waterworks. Number 1. You didn't see that coming. There was one Avenger who made a pretty big impression despite only appearing in one movie. Fans were really excited when it was revealed that Aaron Taylor Johnson would be playing Quicksilver in Avengers Age of Ultron. Mostly they were excited that an X-Men character was going to be featured in an MCU movie. Unfortunately, he wasn't a mutant. Though they don't go into too many specifics about how he got his powers, it had something to do with Loki's scepter and some Hydra experimentation, but that's about all they say. $10 says Disney retcons an X-gene into Wanda and Pietro's backstory now that they own the X-Men characters. Hopefully that also means we'll see Wanda meet up with her famous villainous father, Magneto. Unfortunately, Pietro wouldn't be around for that family reunion. That's because he made the ultimate sacrifice in Age of Ultron by giving his life to save Hawkeye's. He then repeated the, "What, you didn't see that coming?" line. He and Hawkeye traded that back and forth throughout the movie. Sort of an inside joke. It's a truly heartbreaking scene despite the limited screen time with the character. The only problem with it is, it's kinda stupid. He had super speed. Why couldn't he just get himself and Clint out of the way? Like, look at all the stuff Evan Peters could do in 5 seconds. You can't just move one small archer out of the way of gunfire. 20th Century Fox didn't get much better than the MCU, but they definitely did a better Quicksilver. That is, until they ruined him in Dark Phoenix. Number 2. Come on, Spider-Man. I don't know if you've been on any comment sections recently, but if you have, you know that nerds just really can't get along. There are all kinds of impassioned debates among fans. Who's the best Batman? Which characters are stronger than Thanos? You know, standard nerd stuff. One argument that tends to get pretty heated is who the best Spider-Man actor is. A good deal of them are old school. They love Tobey Maguire for being the one who originated the part. He definitely brought an everyman style to Peter Parker. His Spidey was much more an awkward goober than the rest. That doesn't mean he wasn't tough though. His Doc Ock subway fight is probably still the best Spider-Man fight ever. Though some fans just can't get over the dance sequence. It is pretty hard to forget. I've paid 7 therapists, 4 hypnosists, and a brain surgeon to try, and I just can't seem to forget it. Others prefer the Andrew Garfield Spidey. He wasn't so much awkward as he was a loner. His Peter was that cool skater bro that hung out in the back of class. The guy who couldn't really hang with the popular kids but still managed to get Emma Stone. Unfortunately, his version of the character had to star in The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Unlike the infamous dance sequence, I can't even seem to remember anything about that movie. Is that the one where Jamie Foxx played Dr. Manhattan from Watchmen? Who knows? Not everyone has been sold on Tom Holland. He's a lot younger than the others, and his role is a lot more focused on comic relief. The moment that changed in a lot of people's minds was in his solo film. In Spider-Man Homecoming, Peter gets trapped under rubble by Vulture. He starts out by panicking. It's here that we start to realize how much of a kid this version is. He then summons all of his strength and bravery to move the rubble. He chants, "Come on, Spider-Man," through tears, and it's pretty harrowing. That, and it's a direct reference to a similar scene in the comics. Stan Lee's Amazing Spider-Man number 33 featured the same scene. This was the moment that both Peter Parker and Tom Holland came into their own as Spider-Man. That being said, we all know who the best Spider-Man is. No, it's not the Jake Johnson one from the Edge of the Spider-Verse. It's the Japanese Spider-Man. Look at that crazy guy. I mean, he's the only one with a giant robot. Would it really be so hard to bring Leopold into the movies? Come on, Marvel. This is clearly the best version of this character. Number 3. Captain America's Crash. Captain America the First Avenger was a pretty solid introduction to the Steve Rogers character. We got to see the man before the super soldier. There was a dope World War II battle montage, and it sets up the greatest romance in the MCU. No, not Steve and Peggy, you know who we're talking about. Still, the movie's best scene comes all the way at the end. Steve's tragic final conversation with Peggy is not Penny's boat levels of sad. Wait, what? You don't know Not Penny's Boat? That was like the saddest scene in Lost. It was like the most popular show on TV. Oh, how quickly we forget. Anyway, Marvel wasn't content with just letting the scene break our hearts. They had to break it over and over again. In Winter Soldier, Steve meets an older Peggy who has late stages of dementia. In Age of Ultron, he has to live through a fantasy world where he comes home at last. In Ant-Man, we have to watch Peggy Carter endure really horrible makeup. Like seriously, you guys could spring to make a CGI young Michael Douglas, but that's your best old age? The man looks like Gordon Gekko again, and Peggy looks like she's doing a bad Lucille Bluth cosplay. The worst part was that they ended her in Civil War off screen. Wasn't it bad enough that you guys canceled Agent Carter? Geez, way to kick a secret agent when she's down. Number 4. The death of Coulson. The Avengers was one of those movies no one thought would work. It featured the combination of 3 franchises in one mega franchise. While nerds were excited, many were predicting it would fail. I mean, how could you possibly have Thor, Tony Stark, and Captain America in the same room? Luckily, Marvel hired Joss Whedon. He made that criticism the entire point of the movie. The Avengers is a movie about all the reasons why they shouldn't be in a movie together, and one reason why they should. They spend so much time at each other's throats. Then they come together in the end and save the world. Why? They all had someone to avenge. Get it? Because they're called the Avengers? See what he did there? Phil Coulson was a big part of the early days of the MCU. He was the connective tissue between the Iron Man and Thor movies. He also starred in a series of Marvel one-shot short films. In Avengers, he's given a lot more humanity. We see him interacting with Natasha, Tony, and Steve throughout the film. He seems like a regular Joe, a stand-in for the audience. And because it's Joss Whedon, that meant he had to go. Seriously, Joss Whedon loves to end characters' lives. Joyce Summers from Buffy, Fred from Angel, Wash from Century. The man's got a serious George R.R. Martin complex. For a while, Coulson's death was the most tragic moment in the MCU. That is until Joss brought him back in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Of course, he did introduce us to Fitz and Simmons, who may very well be the most tragic characters in TV history. Joss Whedon giveth, and Joss Whedon taketh away. Number 5. Killmonger's origin. Marvel gets a lot of flack for how silly their movies are. Some fans prefer the comic book movies to be dull affairs. That's why Batman vs. Superman made hundreds of millions of dollars. Many believe that Marvel films aren't grounded enough, that they're too concerned with the fantastical comic book elements. The second biggest complaint about the extended franchise are the villains. With the exception of Loki, most of the villains from their first half of the MCU suck. Guys like Malekith, Ironmonger, Yellowjacket, Ivan Vanko, and Killian were all pretty boring. Seriously, Marvel, how many times are you going to do the Green Goblin goes crazy thing? William Dafoe killed it the first time. He owns it now. This became labeled as the MCU's villain problem. Critics also often have a problem with the lack of diversity in the MCU. Black Widow still doesn't even have a movie yet. Yeah, they're working on it, but still. Enter Ryan Coogler. Black Panther was supposed to be a simple Marvel origin story. It was going to give Black Panther his first solo story and introduce Wakanda. Instead, it became a cultural phenomenon. People went crazy about this film. Even the M'Baku scene became famous. There was a whole M'Baku challenge. He's not even a main character. This movie was in a league of its own. It's almost like cultural diversity is an important thing that audiences wanted to see. Who knew? The biggest surprise in the film came from the villain. Killmonger was a terrifying presence from the first scene to his last. What was special about him wasn't his ability to scare, but his humanity. T'Challa's father attacked Eryx and left him in a bad environment. While other MCU villains are just evil, Killmonger is understandably damaged. He goes way off the deep end, but we can empathize with how he got there. Many audience members even shared stories about how they felt his pain. The scene that truly brought the tears was the one where he goes into the spirit world. Eryx sees the spirit of his father for the first time since he was a child. It's a heartbreaking scene that shows he's really still that damaged little kid inside. Plus, it doesn't hurt that Sterling K. Brown and Michael B. Jordan kill it in that scene. Number 6. We Are Groot. Guardians of the Galaxy was another film that became a massive cultural sensation that no one predicted. The wacky characters in the film quickly stole everyone's hearts. No one was prepared for the love we'd have for the ridiculous guys like Groot and Rocket. So when Groot died at the end of the film, it was pretty traumatic. And then when he said, "We are Groot," it was just, I can't with this one. Let's just go on to the next one, okay? Why do you always have to make me cry with your voice acting roles, Vin Diesel? Was Iron Giant not enough for you? Number 7. The many paternal deaths of Peter Quill. People like to hate on Peter Quill for his actions in Avengers 3. They were so close. They almost had the gauntlet off. What were you even thinking, dude? Anyway, what they often fail to remember is that Star-Lord's life sucks. His story begins with his mother losing a battle to cancer. Then we see that his father figure Yondu often jokes about eating him. He finally meets his real dad and holy crap, it's Kurt freaking Russell. But then he finds out that his dad's evil. Not only that, but he was the one who gave his mom the cancer. What's somehow worse is that he breaks the Walkman. I was sad about Peter's mom, but heartbroken about that Walkman. Then he teams up with his buddies to finish his dad off. He fixes the rift between him and his old dad Yondu, who he realizes actually loved him all along. Then of course, Yondu suffocates. That's a lot to throw at a guy. Man, that James Gunn sure is a good writer. Really wish they'd hire him back for the Guardians 3. Wait, what? They hired him back? That is so great! Except for the fact that he'll probably break our hearts again. Man, we really have a weird relationship with these Marvel directors. They bring us so much joy and so much pain. Number 8. Gamora's gone. Good thing nothing else horrible ever happened to Peter Quill. Oh wait. Avengers 3 finally featured the moment fans have been waiting for. Star-Lord and Gamora finally deal with their whole Sam and Diane thing. They kiss and live happily ever after, right? Of course not. We see the Guardians take on Daddy Dearest Thanos in a battle that does not go well. Did anyone else think that he killed Drax and Mantis the first time they watched? I gotta be honest, I freaked out. It ends with Peter trying to shoot Gamora so Thanos wouldn't get her. He fails in a pretty inappropriate gotcha gag. Gamora ends up leading Thanos to the location of the Soul Stone. There, he meets with Ring Wraith Red Skull, who tells him how to get it. He must sacrifice the thing he loves most. At first, Gamora laughs at him for loving nothing. He cries and she mocks him for it, then she realizes why he's crying. She fights him and he drags her to the edge of the cliff and throws her off. Seriously, people criticize these movies for being too funny. Is a guy throwing his daughter off a cliff not enough for you? Did you watch the Mufasa cliff scene from Lion King and not get traumatized? Or did you get too traumatized and now you can't feel anything? I think I just figured out the internet. Number 9. Tony's revelation. Civil War is one of the best MCU films. It introduces Black Panther and Spider-Man. It gives smaller characters like Scarlet Witch and Vision lots of development. It has that awesome airport fight, and oh yeah, it rips your heart out. After Tony and Cap finish their airport fight, they head over to Zemo's. There we find out that he's actually killed all the other Winter Soldiers. So that's it, right? Day saved. Except it was all a ruse. An implausibly complicated ruse. How did he know Tony, Cap, and Bucky would be there? Those questions don't actually matter though, because Tony sees a really bad video. He sees Bucky kill both of his parents. Then he asks if Cap knew, which Cap did. Cue some hardcore man tears. The two beat each other senseless. Cap drops his shield, and the Avengers are destroyed. Just like my heart. Number 10. The Snapping. Okay. Did you have any doubt? You knew exactly what was going to be the most heartbreaking scene. It's the one none of us are over yet. Unlike all the other villains, Thanos succeeds at his plan. The good guys lose. Thanos snaps his fingers and half of the universe evaporates, including half of the cast of the movie. Characters we love like Black Panther, Spider-Man, Drax, and Scarlet Witch fade into dust. Also Peter Quill. No one's sad about you though. It's one of the most devastating ends to a blockbuster movie ever. The Russos were evidently inspired by the ending of The Empire Strikes Back. They wanted to make Thanos the new Darth Vader. Did you really have to try that hard? I mean, come on, you killed Spider-Man. Black Panther's movie just came out. You guys are monsters. Well, those are all the sad Marvel movie scenes. I'm sure Endgame is gonna be much happier. The Avengers will beat Thanos and they'll all live happily ever after. It'll even have a joint Pepper, Tony, Jane, Thor, Peggy, Steve wedding at the end. Oh, look, I know it's a lie. Just let me have this, please. What do you think? What are your favorite heartbreaking MCU moments? Let us know in the comments and don't forget to like and subscribe for more great content from The Binger.